When was the last time you overcame your weaknesses?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the conversation you're having with yourself? I'm your host, Eric Brown, and with me, Mr. Mike Jones.
Hey, good to see you, baby. How you doing,
What's up, man? Oh, living the dream, living the dream. What about you, man?
Hey, man, I'm ready to do some pod blasting today.
Hell yeah. 50-second episode, bro. We on for 1 year,
Oh,
man.
my God. That's so
Time
cool.
flies when
52,
you're having
that
fun.
means one per week, huh?
Yes, sir.
Damn, I did that math all up in my head, man.
Cool. So what we talking about today, man? We got some discipline, some self-discipline. What's on the docket?
Yeah, when we talk about discipline, if we were talking about discipline across the board, that would be one thing. Today, during this pod blast, we are talking about self discipline.
So that is, in fact, the conversation that you're having with yourself to keep you on track to your outcomes then.
Yeah, for the most part, the question that I want to start with is how aware are you of your weaknesses? How aware are you in the moment what it's going to take to overcome your weaknesses? Because we all have strengths and weaknesses, and being self disciplined is disciplining the conversation that I'm having with myself, which is going to occur before I take any actions. So many of the actions that we take that show that we are unself disciplined or that we are not self disciplined, the first part of that conversation began in our thinking before we ever took any actions. So I want you to think about that for a moment.
Okay, got it. So do you have an example though of self-discipline in your personal or your professional
Yeah,
life
for
that
sure,
you can
man.
share?
I had a conversation with somebody just the other day about how I disciplined my four boys growing up, or
Okay.
how I created an atmosphere of discipline when they were with me. Now, my boys, and I am so proud to say, I never had 1 ounce of trouble out of my four boys. Now, how many parents can say that? Not many, because I've
Sure.
coached a lot of them over the years. But I believe that the reason that I had the level of success with them that I did was because they saw me as the disciplinarian. I was the individual that created boundaries for them. I was the individual that created specific outcomes for them. They knew exactly what I wanted from them in the situations around behavior, when we were home versus when we were out, when we were in different situations. They knew exactly how to behave based upon what they had been taught was appropriate in the context of how we were going to be. So they have become very self-disciplined individuals, and it showed up for them in many areas of their lives. In their school, when they were in school, they were not a problem at all in school because they self-disciplined. During the time that they played sports, and they were all very good athletes, they were not the kids out there that were creating problems for their team by doing undisciplined things because they were very self-disciplined. I'm going to have to tell you, Eric, I learned a lot from them regarding self discipline by observing them in the process.
Okay, so what you're saying is they absolutely accepted more personal responsibility to be more punctual, to be more focused on their studies, and to do the things that they needed to do to get to the outcome.
Absolutely. And whether we're talking about your kids, or we're talking about your significant other, or we're talking about your team members at work, when you first introduce self discipline in the culture or in the environment, they initially are going to be in compliance. And if you watch my boys go through the process, they were being compliant to what they were being taught initially, which means that I had to manage them to the self disciplining that they were beginning to get focused on. As I managed them more into it and they saw the benefit of it, they began to self manage themselves in the area of disciplining, which means that they now understood it, so they bought into it a little bit. So it required less management when they moved to now the area of buy-in. There was more understanding. So by the time they became more connected to it, Eric, they moved to ownership, which means that it required very little managing from me of them in the process, because they were not only truly self-disciplined, which means that they managed themselves.
It's smoking hot. So I mean, I know I'm thinking this, and our audience is probably thinking the same thing. How do we create this in our personal and professional lives with the people that are most important to us?
And I think that that's a beautiful question. No better question asked in the context of this conversation. And this is where people always thought I was a little weird about how I managed and I taught my children. I do the exact same thing with my team members at Discover. I do the exact same thing with my significant other, Susan. I focus on gaining an agreement from individuals. I did it with my boys. I do it with my team members at Discover. Gaining an agreement from them toward a very specific outcome. Once there is an agreement, there is no longer me managing my expectations of them. I am now managing the promise that we have made to each other to deliver a specific thing, to get up and to clean your room, to brush your teeth, to prepare the night before for your day tomorrow. All of the things that they became very good at and self-disciplined around, even as it related to their behavior in the classroom and on the football or basketball fields. Absolutely a lesson that transcends all ages and all educational backgrounds. When you are working with individuals and you are no longer managing your expectations, but you're now managing a promise to an agreed upon outcome. It's a much different game to play in a context of creating more self-discipline.
So you're saying that if I go out and I set the expectation of what I want, that's not the same as gaining an agreement to a specific outcome?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying if you are managing, and I'm talking to you as well, if you are managing your expectations of others and they have not made an agreement to what you expect of them, then first of all, you've got to keep your hand involved in that. You've got to stay involved. They're generally going to be in compliance. You're going to deal with a whole lot of disappointment and misunderstanding because you're managing that expectation. And they may not even be clear about what the expectation is if you have not taken the time to truly drill down on what the expectation is and get an agreement from them that they're going to play the game that way. Now, I know this, Eric. There are people who are saying, well, those are my children. They're going to do what I told them to do. Well, That means that you're going to have to manage that every step of the way. I'm telling you, there's a better way. There are others out there that are saying, that's my employee. I'm paying them to do that job. I have expectations of them, and that's exactly what I expect them to do. Again, you're going to have to manage them to that unless you take the time to allow them to be a part of the decisions that are being made about them that they've got to deliver on. Gaining an agreement will absolutely be a game changer for you if you are willing to do the work.
So you're saying that self-discipline truly is the bridge between your outcomes and every accomplishment in your life.
Absolutely. And so, we're going to get across this bridge, y'all. I'm going to either be, using command and control to get them to the other side.
Got it.
Or we are going to work together to get to the other side of that bridge, which means that it's going to feel a whole lot better. It's going to produce a whole lot more. We're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done in an absolutely positive and fun way.
So, Mike, getting ready for this pod blast, I read the definition of self-discipline, and it talks about strengths and weaknesses. And I know I've heard you say that a strength overused becomes a weakness. It may be a little off topic from self-discipline, but explain that to the audience.
But no, I think we can make it work here, though, Eric. So if I am overusing whatever my strengths are, now they're becoming my weaknesses, which means that I've got to be self-disciplined enough to know the appropriateness of the behaviors and the decisions that I am making. The only way for me to know that, I'm going to come right back to what we were talking about a moment ago, is there has to be an agreed upon outcome. If I know what the outcome is, I know when I have pushed the limits of my strengths to the extent that they have now become weaknesses. So take the time to identify exactly what you want from people and make sure that you are clearly communicating it in such a way that they can be disciplined in the choices and the decisions that they are making, that will allow you to be able to be a part of them working together to get to that outcome.
So really, when you talk about self-discipline, it's a lot about empowering people to own whatever area of responsibility that they're focused on.
Yeah, and that may be your self-discipline to be able to pull that off. If you are self-disciplined enough to take the time to empower others, that may be where your self-discipline kicks in and benefits you in the context of this conversation.
Well, y'all heard it here first. At the Edge with Mike Jones about self-discipline.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are. That was some smoking hot shit right there, baby. So if you need to go back and listen to this pod blast again in order to truly connect to this message and how to get there, whether we're talking about your kids or we're talking about your team members or we're talking about your significant other, I would encourage you to take the time to truly connect to the message and the methodology used to get to self-discipline.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the question before you is, what will it take you to get to a 10 on that self-discipline scale?
Yeah, and my question as we go out here is, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to rate yourself now after truly connecting to this message on how self-disciplined you are, 1 meaning that you're not self-disciplined at all, 10 being that you are the most self-disciplined person that you know, where would you fall on the scale, and what are you willing to do to best your best and become even more self-disciplined in every relationship, in every situation that you have?
Let's go, y'all! Come on!
Absolutely. And where we're going, baby, is to the edge. Because if you are not living your life out on that edge, you are taking up far too much room.
Here we go now.